the worst of the worst, that's who we decide to bring in to fight these other no-name bad guys. My review of Suicide Squad next. Suicide Squad. This is actually the newest DC movie that is actually, in the universe connected with Batman v Superman and the other ones that's coming out, so on, in the future. You got Will Smith as Deadshot, you got Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, you got Jared Leto as the Joker, and then you have other ones, unfortunately I can't really remember everybody else in the film there. So the whole thing is that Amanda Wallace actually, starts talking to the Pentagon and saying, hey, you know what, we got the baddest of the bad, the worst of the worst, and what we need to do is we need them to go do this job over here. And I promise there will be no spoilers on this one, so sorry if this video ends up being a little vague, just like X-Men Apocalypse was the same way. So the whole thing is, like I said, she's talking to them and saying, we need these guys. If they ever screw up or anything, we'll just throw them under the bus. They're bad guys. Why should anybody actually care about them? But we care about them enough to say, hey, we need you to kind of save us a little bit from these henchmen, is pretty much, because the villain in the film is so weak, it's ridiculous. I felt like, and again, it's just like even with Marvel villains. In this one, I wish you had some kind of really good villain in this one, and you did not. And you were very disappointed in that. But I will definitely say that the greatest thing about this film was the dialogue. It was great dialogue. It was humorous. Almost everybody pretty much threw out their lines perfectly. It was actually directed and written by David Ayers, which I don't know if people do or do not know this, but years ago, about probably close to 15 years ago or so, he actually wrote all three of the Blade movies with Wesley Snipes, which was actually, like I said, he wrote them all. I think he directed the last one. So whenever he came up and started saying about, hey, screw Marvel and all that, he may have screwed himself with ever writing another Blade movie again if that ever came up. But other than that, I would have to say that this was a really fun movie. It was great action, like I mentioned about the dialogue. Like I even mentioned at the beginning with like the faceless henchmen. It's like there's more to it, but that's the best way of kind of just explaining who the villains are in this vague video of my Suicide Squad here. But it was really fun. It was really enjoyable. I have to say I have not had this much fun at the movies since back in February, which was Deadpool. This is almost, I feel like, the same thing I want to say with Deadpool. 2 thumbs up, A+, 10 out of 10. This was almost, even though I'm giving it a 10 out of 10, it was nearly a perfectly movie other than the villain and all that, but it was still enough to actually be excited with. And I'm probably one of the few people who do movie reviews who talk about the soundtrack. Oh shit, how good the music in this movie was. It seemed like every 5 minutes for the first 30, 40 minutes of the film, there was always some really good music going through, and I had a good time. I was tapping my toes, I was bobbing my head, really had fun with that. Like I said, it seemed like the actors were having fun, but also, the audience was enjoying what they were doing on screen there too. There were a decent amount of stunts on this, which was really nice. Clint Eastwood's son, Scott Eastwood, has kind of a small part in this film. Not really much to kind of mention, but he actually is in it. Let's see. Killer Croc, I liked him, but I wish he was a lot more in front. But it seemed like the main ones were Deadpool, Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang, which was played by Jai Courtney, which I gotta say, like everybody else has been saying, that he was actually awesome in this film. And I'd say those were kind of like your 3 main ones on there. They would kind of go through and they would talk about their backstory, some of them, not all of them, but some of them. They went very quickly. I was happy about that. There really wasn't too much boring in this, really, because you had all these bad guys, and you may have had a couple here and there. And then there was a character named Rick Flagg, who I thought was pretty much a kick-ass character. He wasn't in the Suicide Squad, but he was kind of their leader through Amanda Waller saying that I want you. And he was actually pretty good. Yeah, I mean, he had some vulnerabilities like anybody would, but overall I thought he was such a kick-ass character, and that is Rick Flagg. I just had to say his name again. He was very good in it. Definitely, like I said, recommend film. Much, 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 much better than Batman v Superman. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, stay awesome.